So, Cliff, what is confidence and how do you build confidence? Well, first of all, let's define what the word means. So the word confidence, in my opinion, is believing that you could do something, even when the facts don't actually necessarily indicate that you can. And so it breaks into three parts. The first one is, what are the facts? I'm 5 foot 10 feet tall, I have this level of education, I've built the following things in the past. The second one is, what is the data that you get from people around you about what they perceive you can do? That might be the perception that your friends have of you, your colleagues have of you, your parents have of you, and what people tell you they think you're good at and you're able to do. And the third part is an extrapolation of all those things and a combination of that with what you believe about yourself. And so the question is, if you set yourself a goal, do you believe that you can do that goal? And often it's the case that the facts don't necessarily indicate that you can, and society might not think that you can, but you think that you can. And that's the most important part of this entire equation. Where does confidence come from? Confidence comes from your integrity to the commitments you make to yourself. For example, I was a really small kid. I was 5'2" freshman year of high school. I was 5'3" sophomore year of high school. I have a driver's license where I weigh 110 pounds, 5'3". And I made a commitment to myself that I was going to get big. I watched the movie Prince of Persia with Jake Gyllenhaal, and his shoulder looked amazing, and I was like, I gotta have that too. And so I started working out. And for about a year and a half, I made absolutely no progress. I would go to the gym and I made no progress. But I made a commitment to myself, so I had to figure out a way to solve it. So I just started reading everything on the internet about building muscle. And I would download PDFs by PhDs and read those PDFs. I would find, very complicated scientific-based YouTube videos on what results in protein synthesis. And then I looked at people who I thought highly of, and I read books. I read 20, 30, 40 books about bodybuilding. And then I started experimenting. I found this thing called a DEXA scan that showed me exactly, the breakdown between fat, muscle, bone in my body. And I played with how much protein I ate, how much fat I ate. And finally, I found the system that worked for me. It's funny, I don't gain muscle easily, and I also don't read easily. But in both cases, I built systems that made it easy for me to thrive in the environment that I wanted to thrive in, right? In one case, I figured out how to listen to 100 books a year. And in the other one, I figured out how to gain 30 pounds of muscle. But I wanted to go even beyond that. So then I ended up making a Google Sheet with all the workouts that I was doing, and I would track them every single day. I was maniacal about doing it, and it didn't take a crazy amount of time. It just took a lot of dedication and saying, hey, my goal is here, I'm not at that goal. Meaning I'm gonna keep working until I figure out how to get to that goal. And part of it is a result of effort, but a bigger part is as a result of workshopping better ways of tackling the problem. And the last way of building confidence, the best way, the most powerful way, is by building an environment of love around you and feeling unconditional love. When you have unconditional love from others, the thing people want most in life is to be loved. That's the number one thing people want. And the thing that scares people the most, well, one is not being loved, but the other is fear of the unknown. And so if you can build yourself an environment when you know that you will be loved, that's it. You can't lose. So it's easy to proceed with confidence from that state. Well, how do you build an environment of unconditional love around you? Well, it's pretty easy. You start by giving unconditional love to others. And if you do that constantly, to your neighbors, to your friends, to your family, something interesting happens. You start to get unconditional love back. And so the way that you do that is you tell people, I love you. You tell them that you're grateful for them. You text them out of the blue just because you thought about them, and you show up when they need you. And you'll see that they'll do the same thing for you. And it might be, 50% of the people you do this with will not reciprocate. That's fine. Do it with 100 people. Now you have 50 people who give you unconditional love. And that's the best way I know of how to build confidence.
When you read books, it's really powerful because you get to live other people's lives, but in a very short period of time. So Alexander Hamilton, for example, lived for 50 years, but his biography is 40 hours long. And so that's 1 hour for every hour that he was, above the age of 10. And you realize that this man that I admire so much, that accomplished so many things, went through so many hardships. And it makes it easier to deal with your own. So if I think back to the thing that I've been most insecure about, partly it's my experience being bullied when I was young, partly obviously it's my experience with dyslexia, but both of those things are things, I figured out how to get over them. The thing that really challenged me, that I was most insecure about, is actually growing up with my brother Tyler, who is the smartest person I've ever met. And my sister Alex, who also speaks 7 languages. Like, these 2 siblings of mine have been in the gifted program in every school we've ever been to. In Israel, in the US, Tyler showed up in the US and in a year and a half became the valedictorian of his middle school. Like, how am I supposed to compete with someone like that? Where I can't even accurately spell stuff, and when I try to build anything, it breaks. And for a long time, it felt a little bit like a competition where I was falling way behind, even though I was the older brother. And that's hard. Like, I don't even know how to give advice to someone to say, how do you not be insecure about something like this? Especially when you know that, you have a now defined challenge that makes you kind of fall behind. And I think for me, I did for the most part succeed in overcoming it. And it was just leaning into the fact that I love Tyler so much. Tyler is my best friend. And I feel so much mudita for Tyler and for the rest of my siblings and for all my friends. And it's just so much more happy to live your life where you're celebrating the successes of others than, feeling bad for their successes. And part of it is realizing, hey, we're in a pod together. When one person goes up, it takes all of us up. And to realize that the world is not a zero-sum game, it's a plus-sum game. It's not a certain amount of resources that get distributed equally or by a certain amount within everybody. In every single point where we create value, we make more value in the world. And so I have some tactics. And the best tactics that I've come across is read books about people that inspire you and realize that their lives were also difficult. Surround yourself by people who you unconditionally love and create that by giving love to them in return. Coach yourself to, instead of being jealous, celebrate the successes of other people. And then find ways to hack the systems around you to allow you to succeed even when you have challenges. And you do that by keeping strong integrity to the commitments you make to yourself. And actually, Speechify as a tool was built exactly for that. It started as a tool to solve my own insecurities and my own inability to read. And then, very luckily, it became a tool that allowed other people to solve their challenge as well. And so now it's grown into a tool that you can use, that you can have in your back pocket to solve any challenge that you might face. And so this is a product that is steeped in this idea that one of the best things that you could possibly do is help other people around you build their confidence and solve their insecurities. And the sentence I always say in regards to this is, above everything else, I wanted to be the person that I needed most when I was young. And the core of that is actually to make sure that every person can wake up in the morning and look in the mirror and say to themselves, I'm awesome. I'm gonna go do great things. And so one of the reasons why we all work on Speechify every day and we love this job so much is it allows us to enable that in other people around us. So for the final point, what do you do if your insecurities are impacting your mental health? Like, what do you do then? And that's also a very hard question. And I think that as with all the other examples that we gave, lean on your friends, lean on your family. Like, don't be afraid to be vulnerable with people. The two strongest ways to build relationships is by showing vulnerability and by sharing ambition. And so think of it as an opportunity and lean into the opportunity to share your vulnerability with others. You'll be amazed at how others rise to the occasion and how much they appreciate you for allowing them to support them. This is how humans work. Humans aren't perfect creatures. Like, this is part of what separates us from robots. We go up, we go down, but what we excel at is being part of a tribe. So build your tribe. Don't only seek discomfort, seek other people to love and give the love to them. And if you do that consistently, you end up building this iron confidence and you get the ability to eliminate a lot of your insecurities. It's not easy, it's something that's hard to do, and it's a lot of mental coaching. And the path to doing that is actually by writing. Because when you write, you figure out, here's this unknown that I'm scared of, and here's how I can navigate that, and how I can make sure that I'm not afraid because I know what's coming. And here's how I can strategize and think and build systems to become the person that I want to be. And ideally, if you get good enough at doing that for yourself, you start being able to do that for your friends and for your family and for the people that you love. And that's just one other way in which you can show unconditional love to people around you, is learn how to eliminate fears, eliminate insecurities, build confidence in yourself, and then one of the biggest gifts that you can give to other people is to build confidence in them. Happy listening.